Happy Wednesday.
We're back.
We're back. How's the week been?
Crazy busy. I feel like I was saying before we were backstage, I'm like, I feel like I'm nonstop. I wake up in the morning and I don't stop until my head hits the pillow at 12, 1, sometimes later. I don't know, it depends on what's going
You
on.
are one of the few people that I know that I can reach out to at really strange hours if I need something. So last night I had a question about the show and I was texting you at midnight or 1 your time. It's this will probably be okay. Keeping my fingers crossed. So
if I don't answer,
you're always,
why.
yeah, you're always working. You were definitely one of the hardest, if not, you were one of the hardest workers in this space for sure.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, my boy has been homesick this week. So I am wondering if I'm starting to come down with something too. I'm starting to feel a little bit of a scratchy throat. So we'll see how that goes. Next week I might be not able to talk.
That would be
so that would suck. I am very excited for tonight's episode. We have a special guest that I'm stoked to have a conversation with. We've got your driver Mike. How cool is that? Get to talk to your driver Mike.
I am so excited to pick his brain and get to know him a little bit better.
For sure.
But before we even get started, before you forget, we actually have a slide.
So really quick, before we go any further, shout out to Mike for the high quality picture. Typically when our guests send us pictures, we kind of have to manipulate them a little bit in Photoshop to really kind of get it to work. That was not the case with Mike's. It just was good to go. I was sweet. So, shout out to him for that. We have quite a jam-packed show today. We're going to talk about what analysts are saying about Doordash and how it affects drivers. We have some more orders to look at. Kim, Mike, and I are going to have a discussion, maybe even a debate, Kim, on whether or not we would take these orders.
And you're going down.
No. I came ready to go, Kim.
You came feisty tonight.
I'm a little feisty. Yeah, sure. So we're going to talk about if a couple of people are just doing a harmless prank or if they're committing a crime and should be punished for it. We're going to talk about whether or not you should trust your customers when they say they'll tip cash. And we're going to talk about an Instacart shopper who fought an unjust deactivation and won a substantial amount of money. We're going to talk if Walmart Spark is going to be a thing in the near future for independent contractors. And unfortunately, we're going to talk about another naughty driver. And we're going to wrap things up with the funnies. So, Kim, why don't you go ahead and introduce our special guest?
Absolutely. With further ado, I am so excited to welcome your driver, Mike, to the show. So,
hello, guys. Appreciate you having me on, Kim, Zach, and also want to thank Harry for the invite to come on the show here. We have a lot to talk about. Team, if you're watching from my channel and you join here, drop a comment in the live chat or the comment section. Pumped to talk about a lot of stuff today.
So, Mike, why don't you give us a little bit of background? How did you get into 1099 type of work? And then furthermore, how did you get into YouTube?
Yeah, so I first started my side hustle here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was living with my twin brother, Matt. He has a channel, Front to Trunk, as well. And, we're sitting around. Either we went out and we spent money, or I was just kind of chilling at home, not doing anything. And both of those didn't make me any money. And I was working customer service at the time. And just then, that was 2015, Uber was starting to pick up some steam here in Pittsburgh. And we saw those Lyft mustaches as well, the super fuzzy throwback mustaches of Lyft RideShare. And I had a Dodge Caliber at the time. And I was like, hey, I'm seeing this stuff about money. And actually, I think at the time I was watching Harry's channel as well. And I started. And I just went for it. And I think I did it for maybe a month or so. And then I talked to Matt about it. I'm like, hey, I'm making pretty good money here. And at the time, they had pay multipliers, Surge, and they had prime time on Lyft, very similarly. Companies still, copy each other a lot with incentives. And the money was great. And I was driving Oh, most nights, frankly, a little too much because I was really excited. The pay was super good. I was doing like 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. and then still working the next day. But after that, to answer your other question there, Zach, is I saw other creators on YouTube. That was a little before 2017. I started my YouTube channel January of 2017. Watched Harry's channel. And I watched actually another creator who used to be in the gig space, Randy Shear, formerly known as Uberman, now Auto Auction Rebuilds, one of the OGs in this space. So I was watching, both of those channels and, saw really twofold business opportunities there and experience opportunities to share what I was learning and experiencing in Pittsburgh. And then just tried stuff, just tried food delivery from there. And then since then I've tried most every side hustle app. I've done it part-time and full-time. I was living out in San Diego for a time, did it out there, and back here in Pittsburgh and helping people make money different side hustles.
So you're kind of unique in the sense that you've driven in a couple of major markets. I mean, I think it's a major market, San Diego at least. 100%. So do you feel like that has, being in two different markets, do you feel like that has sort of changed the advice that you would give people?
100%. Because Pittsburgh, I think we're around 300,000 in the Allegheny County area. And then I looked up San Diego County, 3.3 million. Yeah. And it gave me brand new experiences. Like we don't have 6 building complexes here in Pittsburgh. Like huge, I'm talking whatever they had in San Diego, like 15 floor buildings. And then there were 6 of them. And it was a huge apartment complex. Yep. And then I drove by Pacific Beach, which was a beach area. I drove in La Jolla, which was affluent, also students. Yeah. I drove all over. And then it also gave me the experience to try new apps. So Harry and I were talking about this when Lime scooter charging came to California, because California is one of the markets that usually gets initial launch. I've seen it in Florida and I've seen Texas as well. But Lime scooter, new experiences. And then obviously the great weather, which I still miss, by the way, folks, that I could drive and work more year round. So tons of great experience. I'm back in Pittsburgh because my family's here and I love being able to spend some time with them, but it's a great yin and yang, certainly.
So I want to ask you one more question about that. First, I want to thank Ron. Thank you so much for the super chat there. I appreciate you, man. It was awesome having you on last week and it's good to see you back. So you had said that you drove in La Jolla as well. I am somewhat familiar with San Diego, spent a little bit of time there myself. So what is your opinion in higher income areas? Do you find that people tend to tip more or less?
Fantastic question, folks. Lean in for this. Drop a like on this video. Again, I'm pumped to be here, guys. So I drove in, La Jolla, which is super affluent, Condado, which is that, island off of San Diego there, where the naval base is.
Coronado?
That is true. Coronado. What did I say?
I don't remember.
I don't know. Coronado. Thank you. Condado. Condado is a Mexican taco restaurant here in Pittsburgh, folks. I'm clearly getting food after this. I'm thinking about food. Coronado. Yes. I would say yes, but I would honestly say maybe 10, maybe 20% more. I mean, I drove double gated $10 million homes and I would get more, certainly, especially for those, homes. If we're talking like $1 million, $2 million homes in San Diego, which I know still sounds ridiculous because they're so expensive out there, then I'd get average tips. But I don't think it's not like you're going to go out driving the super affluent areas and get like $20 tips all the time.
Right. So that's a debate that Kim and I have had.
So,
go ahead. Sorry, Kim.
No, you go ahead. You go about our debate.
We've had this debate a few times, and Kim's always talking about how she does really well with these mansions in New Jersey. And I'm like, I don't find myself ending up in the really affluent areas in my market. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a difference in market, but it sounds like it's 2 against 1 here. So I might be a little outvoted.
I think you will get more. So if someone has a question, should I purposely go over there to hopefully get more tips? I do. If you trend analysis, if you compare sample A or my normal zone to sample B, an affluent zone, I think you will make more. But again, like we both know with this gig economy, there's a lot of volatility, different market changes and whatnot. Actually, I saw a stat that said Pittsburgh is one of the highest tipping cities in the country, which was pretty neat. They average like a 20% tip on dinner bills. So, give it a try, folks. Try it and then compare A, B, but also consider this. If you have to drive 15, 18 minutes to that zone, right, is a little more expensive. You have to compare that.
So talk to me about your favorite apps. Which do you reach for first, and which are you tending to kind of not touch so much?
Sure. Kim, I'll let you go first. Did you want to ask something or?
No, I know you said you started in 2017 to today. What do you think is like the biggest, hugest difference you've seen from then to now in the gig economy?
Yeah. So 2015, first side hustle, 2017, first year on YouTube for some context there. So since 2015, a lot has changed. I mean, like I talked about earlier, the earnings multipliers, it's not the same anymore on Uber and Lyft. It's just not to the degree of just pure insane earnings when I was making, 60 to 70 an hour, no exaggeration, in 2015, 2016. And then we know, and this is what I teach our audience on Your Driver Mike, is the best, hottest apps change as well. So I remember my first videos on Shipt, now owned by Target, when I was making 40 an hour. So that's one of the goals of my channel at large is like, hey, you can assume and just like, yeah, I'll do Uber, I'll do Doordash, but what's changed? Is this better? Is this improvement that just came along better? So yeah, to answer your question there, it's always changing. Best apps change, bonus pay changes. That's what I really try to focus on.
Okay. Cool. So you were just recently reactivated on Doordash as well.
Yes.
Was a 2.5 year thing for you?
2.5 years.
Ooh.
That's crazy.
Ooh. And you just randomly got an email saying, oops, our bad.
Yeah. I mean, it was a long, and I gave a couple of possible explanations, in a video I did on that. I feel like it's either an open-ended appeal that I had in their system, or honestly, it's, I think point two that I made is almost all the channel. It's doing, 600 to 800,000 views a month. And like, frankly, I'll say it here too. It was their fault, in my opinion, from even sending me an email admitting it was their fault. And I appealed like at least 2 times. I think I appealed 3 times in total. And it just gets stonewalled because I think, if you're a driver watching this, you're afraid about getting deactivated, or if you have been deactivated, unfortunately, I think a lot of this stuff is automated. So possibly, again, maybe something got escalated. Like, hey, this, we got this other appeal, and this is from this person who's on this, YouTube channel that's doing these numbers.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad to be back because I honestly like the platform a lot.
Sure.
And right now I'm in the process of, creating a verdict of how good is it in 2023. But I am glad just to be on the platform again after offering them like 3 different solutions. I'm just glad to be able to drive and make videos.
I saw that you had all of the same stats still. Like, I think you even had a contract violation carryover, right?
Yeah. It was from, I can probably pull it up real quick. It was from like 20, when was it? 21.
Better get those 100 orders in.
I know, because they blocked me off there. All right, loading. Yeah, January 9th, 2021. Order extremely late, which is funny because now I think they have even better protections for drivers. A couple of years ago, whenever that happened, I mean, I don't know. They consider real world traffic and stuff to prevent, mistaken violations for being late because it wasn't your fault. But yeah, we'll knock out 100 deliveries. We'll get that off of there.
Right on. So knock on wood. So far, I've yet to get one. 3 years in, and I've yet to get one. So
all right.
Uber Eats is a different story, but on Doordash, I've yet to have it happen.
Interesting.
So yeah, they ruined a date. Like 2 years back, I was out on a date and my phone rings and they're like, hey, a customer is saying you didn't deliver this. I was like, well, they're lying. So
I know, folks, I've told you, viewing this, if you're a driver or worker, You can try to protect yourself as much as possible. There's timestamp apps. You can have a dash cam, a body cam, obviously follow local, federal, state laws. Do what you can, screenshots and stuff like that. So you can, I mean, frankly, even I had evidence of their own email, but like, do what you can, folks, and have some documentation.
For sure. And a little bit later in the show, we're going to get into an option that many drivers don't know that they have when they do get deactivated. So that'll be good to kind of talk to you about and get your perspective as well.
Sure.
Something that Sergio talks about all the time. So that should, it should be an interesting conversation. Kim, why don't you play the video?
Yeah, absolutely. So today's Money Hungry show is brought to you by Ualett. They are today's sponsor. So hopefully the link to Ualett, if you're interested in signing up, is in the description of this video. So without further ado, I am going to start playing it.
For 90,000 drivers. We help drivers who need cash advances for paying insurance, vehicle maintenance repairs, gas money, and any of your business-related endeavors. We have an extremely fast application process, allowing you to have your money in 24 hours. It's fast, no impact on your credit score, and no credit checks. We approve your application based on cash flow from your rideshare business. Join Ualett today and never worry about being strapped for cash again.
So thank you, Ualett, for being today's sponsor.
So I want to get into the first story. Now, Mike, I've watched you for quite a while, and you do a lot of reaction videos to like earnings calls and stuff like that. So, I mean, you obviously have a financial type of mind. So analysts are saying that Doordash could be hit very hard by the restart of the student loan repayments. So that is going to resume in October, next month. Sorry, my notes are loading up here. Mike, what do you think about that? Is right off the bat, do you agree that this could cause a problem for DoorDash or food delivery in general?
Yeah, good question. Kind of the thesis of our discussion today is all these companies of luxury service. I mean, I'm really interested in how big the student cohort is, especially let's assume college age students, because we know those students don't have a ton of discretionary income anyway, traditionally. Mm-hmm. So if we're talking just a hit to well, I guess if you're talking a student loan repayment, technically they're out of school, right? So, well, there's two kind of age cohorts there. Students that are in school, yeah, they don't have a lot of discretionary income, but your slide there was referring to student loan repayment, so they're out of school. So let's focus on those people. It comes down to the proportion of discretionary income you have and how disciplined someone is with their food delivery spending. I don't think it's going to have a huge dent. I don't. I think the overall macroeconomy is having a bigger dent, but still, citing your point there, Zach, listening to these earnings calls for the past, year or 2 years, these companies are still citing overall growth year over year. And that's monthly active users. That's sales. DoorDash is just slightly upticking on market share because they're already at 60% plus monthly sales volume of share anyway. So what to watch, I think is even larger. I think it's the macroeconomic pressures that we have right now, interest rates, and the whole macro at large on someone's spending, including those student loan repayments. But the other side of the coin is the companies. Here's to put a bow on that. What we should really be watching, and primarily what I'm focusing on those calls, is the company's expenditures for you and I, drivers, because they've cited since Q3 of last year that they're spending less. This is Uber and DoorDash. They're spending less on driver incentives and pay and bonuses. So that's what I'm watching.
So, and I think that we can all agree with that synopsis, right? It used to be that we would get peak pay, and that's diminished in most markets, at least unless you want to drive crazy hours. What I am curious to see, the thing that's most concerning to me isn't so much if people are going to be ordering. It's the people who are going to have to start. So I live in a college town. The people who are going to have to start paying those loans back and all of a sudden have to cough up an extra, $200, $300, $400 a month. So where are they going to go? Right? They're going to turn to 1099 type of work. So I could see that leading to oversaturation, but that's just, I don't know. That's just my synopsis.
Yeah, what I found interesting about this is the average age of people paying back these loans. You think it's like people right out of college, but the average age was 24 to 49. So you're even talking someone, I won't say how old I am, but somewhere close to my age, who's already set in like their lifestyle, and they're like going back to paying these loans again. So, will they finally make this technically a luxury service? And, will it impact our industry? I feel like we always say it's a luxury service, but I feel like customers never get the memo that it's a luxury service. So it should be very interesting.
I think knee-jerk reaction, if I ask someone on the street, like, hey, do you order food delivery? Like, oh yeah. Do you think it's a luxury service? I think, yeah. I mean, there's the memes and jokes that like these fees are ridiculous on the customer side. But I still think people love ordering food delivery. It's been around for decades. Will they curtail that a little bit with the student loans? Maybe. We'll see how much, if any, that digs in to order rate. I mean, Zach, you mentioned if they aren't going to give up food delivery, then will they, right? Kind of make the money on the same platform that they order from, which is ironic because I do the same thing. I order the food delivery as well to make up some of those lost funds. That'll be interesting to see.
So, all right, real quick question. When you order, sorry, just this popped in my head, figured I'd ask. When you order, are you a leave it at the door person or a hand it to me person? And if you are a hand it to me person,
easy.
Have you ever had a driver be like, Mike?
No. It's it's always contactless. I'm trying to remember. The only time it's handed to me is when the driver can't find the entrance to our apartment complex for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
So they call me, I have to come down to help them out. No one's recognized me. There's something else I was going to say. Oh, I'm just going to throw this out there. My go-tos, folks, it's sushi. It is sometimes Chinese food. And I used to do Indian food more, but not as much anymore. But sushi is the main thing.
That's funny.
Being right on the coast, you would love it here.
Yeah. I miss San Diego because I got the Mexican food, real fresh Mexican food, and then obviously the fresh coastal. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, when I'd go to San Diego, I'd definitely eat well. So
I've never been to the West Coast.
Well, you've kind of been ish. I mean, not the coast, but you were in Colorado.
Oh, like really, Colorado is the West Coast? What geographic
I mean, it's technically it's like west of the Mississippi. It's west. So I don't know. That will be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, it used to be back in the day that if somebody wanted to make extra money, they would turn to like eBay or a part-time, second job or something like that. But now I feel like more and more people are gravitating towards delivery apps. So I could see that really the oversaturation because people love convenience. Like I'm not going to stop getting my packages delivered 2 day. I'm not going to go from 2-day shipping with Prime to a week with free shipping, right? People want the convenience. So it's the oversaturation, which is already an issue in a lot of markets that we have never seen
the driver adoption rate in any market. Like we don't know how many drivers are signed up. When we go online, we don't really know how many other dashers or workers are around us. Uber still, I mean, I haven't driven Uber in a bit, but like they used to, they probably still do, show some drivers around you, but it's not necessarily a live representation. It's certainly not everybody. But
wouldn't that be great to know, though? Like, if you're a driver, wouldn't it be great to know even just totals how many drivers are on the platform at the time that you're on, just so you can get like, I know it's never going to happen. It's a wish list, but it would be kind of nice to know, okay, well, there's like 20 drivers over here, so I'm going to go over here where there's no drivers. It would be a very good, useful information.
So I want to pop up a couple of orders here if we can, Kim. And we've been doing this every week. We've been showing some orders and talking about if you would take them. So this first one actually came from Kim's Market. So let us know in the chat if you're taking that. Kim, did you take it?
I did. This is my order. I did. It's $27.50 for 11.5 miles. What it didn't show you is it was 21 items, and it was a pizzeria.
So, I mean, first glance, yeah, I'm taking that. Unless of course it's going somewhere that's just a huge pain in the butt, and then I may not. Hey, Tony.
Do you guys want my input?
Oh,
yeah,
please.
go for it.
I was just waiting. So yeah, I mean, folks, what we teach you here on our channel, the dollars to mile ratio, how much am I getting paid for the miles driven? It's $2.39, which is fine because our minimum's $1.75 on the channel. Kim, was it $27.50 or did you get even higher after?
Oh, that's the next slide.
I won't ruin it. So let me comment on the miles. So I just punched it in here in Pittsburgh. 11 miles would basically take me to Monroeville. Well, it says 15 miles, so a little bit more towards the city. It'd probably take about 20-some minutes. Yeah, Zach, like you mentioned, I mean, positioning for 11 miles, but yeah, we'll see the next slide there.
Okay, you guys ready? Dun, dun, dun.
Oh,
and that's what pisses me off about DoorDash.
Sure.
You know what?
They should just show it up front.
Folks, what is the comment this in the live chat or the comments if you're watching on the replay? What is the biggest indicator or hint that this was going to happen? And I'll ask you guys, Zach and Kim, what was the biggest hint on the order request screen that might have tipped this off?
For me, it was I go by a couple of things. I think that order per mile ratio is important. I go by the item count, which was 21 items, and not only that, but the plus sign. So be kind of all the factors together. That's kind of why I made the decision that I did. To me, miles don't matter if they're going to pay me like $27. I also go by time. So even if this order took me an hour to complete, I was still going to make $27 an hour.
So for me, I would probably look at the map and see if it's going to kind of like a corporate area, a lot of like headquarters or something like that. So I can actually still on some of the offer screens see the item count. So if that's visible, obviously that's going to be an indicator as well. Sometimes the restaurant can be an indicator, but that's kind of more, decision making type of thing. If it's kind of in between for me, so.
All right.
Probably.
Here's what I saw. Folks. I appreciate you guys commenting that. I see some of you in the live chat. Thanks for being here. Drop a like on this video and definitely subscribe to RSG here for some fantastic content. So yeah, some people were commenting in the live chat, the catering bag. So Kim, like you mentioned, yeah, it's the plus sign, but it's also that catering bag thing. Why? Because let's say you can't see the item count of 21 items. It's a catering order, which most likely is going to be a large order. And because it's not only large, probably in quantity, but quantity and size, I guess I'm talking about number of items, but physical size as well, then it's most likely going to be a higher ticket item, which would be a higher tip. But obviously, they like blew it out of the water with a super high tip, which is fantastic.
Are you on the large order program?
Since I just got reactivated, nope. But I would very much like that invite, DoorDash, if you're here. Yeah.
So, Kim, where did that end up delivering to? Real quick, and then I want to get to mine.
Well, the whole entire order, it was actually 4 miles to the restaurant from where my current location was. So it ended up really being like a 7 or 8 mile order. So it really, a lot of it was actually getting to the restaurant, and then it was more up north. It wasn't highway driving. It was all, I don't want to say.
Was it going to a house or a business?
Yeah, it was a house. Nope, it was a house. Wow. It was a Saturday. I guess it was a Saturday party
or something. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We get a lot of like kids parties on weekends. So a lot of like family parties, kids parties. That's a lot of the catering orders in my area during that time.
Why don't we pop up mine? So this one's from my market. I just took this screenshot a few days ago. So this one, $7. going 2 miles. Oh, it was an add-on offer. So I was already on my way to this place to pick up an order. It's an add-on for $7, an additional 2 miles. So most people are probably by default going to say yes, they're going to take that, right? The dollars per mile is great. There's a catch though. It's delivering to the hospital. Does that change anybody's opinion?
Go ahead, Kim.
Now, see, I know we've had this talk before, but hospitals in my area have got, if it was like 3 years ago during like pandemic times, I'd be like, heck no, I'm not going anywhere near a hospital.
Yeah.
Like now they've gotten really good that majority of them, you drop it out of the desk and you're out the door and you're done, or you go to the emergency door and you drop off so for me, yes, I guess how much was the original first order?
I think it was $8.75, if memory serves me correctly.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, for how much? It depends on the total miles, to be honest with you, whether the $15 would be worth the miles. I'm not a big fan of add-ons when it comes to DoorDash, but I'll take them if it's going to get me to my goal quicker.
See, I'm thinking what some other people in the live chat were thinking. I saw the Five Guys first. And I'm like, sometimes they're a little bit, they take a little bit
the
longer.
Fries.
Because, the dollars to mile's fine. So seeing that, the dollars to mile, I'm like, okay, yeah. And then my eye goes to the Five Guys. I'm like, meh, I'd still probably take it. But Zach, that's the curveball. You said to a hospital. Yeah. But I'll kind of agree with Kim that I can't remember the last time I had to go like deep into a hospital. A lot of them have been handed to me and I wait outside, or it's been the front desk. I've had a few specialized care facilities and or kind of like retirement homes that I've gone in because it's kind of almost a tenant, if you will, within the facility, at least for the retirement home. It was almost like apartment doors on the inside. But, if I got that here in Pittsburgh and it said it was delivering to UPMC hospital, I don't know. I think I would take it most times, but I would take another second to look at it.
Yeah, so the retirement homes, the elderly, memory care facilities, I typically don't have a problem with. It's the patient rooms and the checking with security, and it's not worth it. I like to preach that sometimes the money is not worth the frustration. Mm-hmm. So that to me was probably one of those orders.
And the only place that gives me that pause are hospitals, but I'm kind of leaning with Kim. I think it's getting better. Zach, are you still finding that you have to go deep into hospitals usually, or is it getting better?
So I don't go. On the rare exception that I accept one without realizing it, I always unassign myself from it. It's just,
I don't think you're in the wrong for doing that either. I think, your marketplace,
Yeah. So the only time over the last 6 months that I've actually had to go to the hospital itself, it was an employee and they were kind enough to come out. That was on Uber Eats, and I didn't have Para running at the time. So I unfortunately got the order and did it. So, but it worked out. Fortunately, the only times when I was new that I ended up at the hospital, I was able to drop it with security, but that's no longer, an option. They're going to tell you to walk it up to the patient room or the office that it's going to. So
now, see, I've also gotten really good at my own hospital, especially with LOP catering bag orders, that if I see some of the names, I'm like, nope. And I unassign just based off of the history of the repeat customers that I have. You see someone's name and you're like, oh, yeah, no. And then you unassign because you know that it's going to go up like $1.
Yeah, for sure. So why don't we pop up this next slide here? This should be an interesting conversation. Yep. So I call this prank or theft. So a TikToker is blurring the lines between a prank and a Grand Theft Auto by driving a Uber Eats driver's car to a different spot in the parking lot when he was picking up an order. The TikTok pranks are becoming increasingly common and dangerous, with influencers walking into strangers' houses unannounced or even taking cars for spins. So What had happened was an Uber Eats driver was picking up a McDonald's order, and a couple of guys were sitting in their car, goofing around, and realized that he had left his keys in there. Thought it would be funny to go grab the keys or go grab the car and move it. First of all, how would you guys react to that?
First of all, you know me. I take my keys with me everywhere, so this would never happen to me. Like, it's so dangerous leaving your keys running in your car, especially going into a restaurant. I can't tell you how many times I see it. I'm like, dude, one day your car's gonna be gone, and like it's actually really happening. So I don't know whether I mean, yes, I don't think that they should have pulled a prank like this because it's scary as hell knowing their car's not there, but I don't know. I feel like it's twofold. If two wrongs.
That's well said. I mean, it's like common sense. Like, dude, don't get in someone's car, even if it's a prank and et cetera, et cetera. But like, obviously that's not how these people think. They don't have common sense if they're doing this dumb prank. But on you as a driver, like, you can't leave the thing running with the keys in it, or even leave it unlocked with your keys in it. The only time I do that, folks, being transparent with you, is if I'm in the middle of a neighborhood in the suburbs here in Pittsburgh, and I'm doing a delivery on like Amazon Flex. So, and still I won't leave it running. I mean, what's the benefit to leave it running? I understand it's like the ignition, like starters, wear that down, off, on, I get that, which is a good thing of those new Rivian Amazon vehicles. Those are pretty neat. It's on all the time and it's silent because it's electric, and we have some of those in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Nice.
But I mean, if you're in the city though, come on, folks. It's twofold. Yeah. Don't get in someone's car. That's stupid, but don't leave your car running and or unlocked and the keys in the car.
Yeah. So I was running into an issue before I replaced my clutch sensor switch where maybe a car was going to start and maybe it wasn't. So admittedly, there were a couple of times that I ran in just like, I was like peeking back the whole time, make sure it was all good.
Yeah.
I do drive a standard, manual transmission. So it's, obviously not foolproof, but it's going to help dissuade certain people from stealing my car. But I have since gotten that fixed and, no longer an issue. If I saw that, I
don't know. What I found interesting, I'm just going to read this real quick. So it's a new trend on TikTok, and it's called the Kia Boys TikTok trend. I just lost it. But I think it was in New York or New York City, it actually counted for 19% of car thefts in this past year. How crazy is that?
Was it for what? People just leaving their cars running or what?
No, like this trend, these people who
I don't know
are
the
moving
trend
cars. These people who are
cars.
like moving cars, and drivers or people who can't find them. It's because they're moving cars and people are reporting thefts.
You know what you can do, folks, is it's your own vehicle. Put an Apple AirTag in it, or put some kind of a tracker in it. If you want, I mean, obviously, again, best practice, don't leave your car running, but if just as another safety measure, just in case,
So, all right, what's your guys' opinion though? Harmless prank or is it theft?
Kim, what do you think? I'll give my take after that.
Honestly, I don't think it's theft because they didn't technically steal their car. They kind of just moved it. So I don't think it's theft, but I think it's a really bad prank that can go really bad. Like, what happens if, I don't know, there's so many guns and violences these days. Like, what do you know about these people that they're getting into their stranger's car? I don't know. I just think there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
I mean, if I saw walking back to my car, someone was moving my car, maybe they jimmied the door, jump started it, which is crazy. But like the first thing I would think of is like they're armed, and I would be almost afraid approaching that vehicle. If they got out with a phone filming like, oh, is this your car? It's a prank. Like still, I'd be extremely on edge. And like legally, like again, I'm not a lawyer or an officer, so I don't know the legal parameters of that. It probably is. I mean, it certainly is illegal in some classification, but like it would cause me to be on guard and afraid, like, especially if they got out and I'm like, what's going to happen next? Yeah.
It
That's
just reminds me,
fair.
there's a driver in my area, and I see it all the time. He drives a Prius, and whenever he goes to go inside like a restaurant, he leaves his car running, keys in ignition, and his driver door like wide open. I'm like, are you really that dense?
He wants someone to take that Prius. He's like, give me the insurance or something.
Kim, I got to challenge you on your opinion on this, though. You said you don't think it's theft, right? I mean, with that mindset, if I were to open somebody's front door, walk in, make myself a big ass sandwich and eat it in their kitchen, right? Is that theft, or am I just having a meal at their house?
I think it's a fine line. I don't know, if someone came out and said, hey, it's a prank, I think it's a really bad prank.
Well, maybe me eating that sandwich is a prank too.
I know. Would I press charges on the person? Probably not.
I kind of feel like we're at the point in society in general. Here we go. Here comes the rant. Where if you film it, like in some people's minds, that makes it not illegal.
Yeah, I've seen stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's
like if you do it and it's not being filmed, it's like, oh, that's, you're breaking the law, got to call the cops, right? But people are just like, oh, okay, haha, candid camera. And, it gives people, in their opinion, a license to be idiots.
I think that's cut and dry. You don't do that. I think it is. Again, I don't know where it falls in legal classification. And again, I'm sure it's illegal in some sense, but like, that's not a prank. That is like moving my X $1,000 asset that's very important to me. I'm just trying to actually, you know what? I'll tell you a quick prank, folks. I was in Whole Foods, okay? And these guys come up to me, younger than me. And this guy walks up to me. He's a little younger, and he says, he looks concerned. He says, excuse me, sir, have you seen my dad? Looking concerned, like he's lost. And this guy was in like his early 20s. He's not a kid. And I said, oh, no. What does he look like? And he said, kind of like you. And he just looked at me with his face like, oh, and I was like, oh yeah, that's, I guess, a prank, but don't touch my car.
Right. For sure. Yeah. Don't touch our stuff.
I don't know. I just feel like a lot of times social media like blows up like all the wrongdoings in the world. Like, hey, how can I make myself bigger and better? I know, I'll do this and put it on TikTok and grow, likes and views. And I'm like, and it's a bad idea.
It's an unfortunate content strategy that I think, well, it could be any age, but I think especially younger people think like this is the fastest way to get attention, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. TikTok is a problem in my opinion, but we'll save that rant for another day. So, all right, Mike, since we've got you here, when a customer says that they'll tip cash, are you believing them?
Excellent. I love the screenshot. Leave a door, ring doorbell, will tip cash. I'm trying to think of other examples when someone's texted me, I'll tip cash. So folks, if someone says, can you grab an extra this, or can you, I don't know, change my delivery address, or can you do anything like special? And they'll say, I'll tip you cash. I mean, I'm going off of what my parents probably taught me at some point, is like, I'm skeptical of that. I think a lot of people are. I don't believe you until that cash is in my hand. And actually, I did a delivery 2 days ago, whenever it was, when the person picking it up, like for her friend, she said, oh, does she leave a tip on there? If not, I'll make sure to tip in the app. And you're just kind of like, okay, you're going to forget about me as soon as you turn your back. And it's what it is.
Yeah. So it's something else to keep in mind is oftentimes delivery instructions are out of date. And I used to see this all the time on Grubhub. And when I was a newer driver, I would take an order and I would deliver it, right? Thinking that, there was going to be a cash tip. Oh, look under the doormat. You'll and instead I'm like looking under the doormat like an idiot, like, what am I doing? So I remember one time I drove, oh boy, I was practically in Canada. So I must have driven at least 20 miles. And the instructions said that there was going to be a cash tip. And of course there was not. They told me to look under the flower pot, look under the flower pot. It's not there. But fortunately, that happened on Uber Eats. So the base pay plus the mileage made that trip ultimately worth it. But you know what? My advice to anybody is do not take an order unless the face value pay is worth it, because you're probably going to be disappointed more often than not. Kim?
Go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
Oh.
Now, whenever I see this, I feel like you have a 50-50 chance if it was a hand it to me and then they said, we'll tip cash. When it's a leave at door, I feel like you have like a negative 2% chance, because there's no way if you're leaving it at someone's store, they're going to come out and say, here's your $10. Like, that's just, to me, that's just not logical, and it's not going to work. And I've never seen it happen.
I had a very nice lady, real quick. I had a very nice lady on Shipt when I was delivering her groceries. I think it was more in the, COVID times, if we can say that now, folks, that she said, it was contactless, and then I'll tip you. And she had taped a little Ziploc bag with like a $20 bill in it. So I was like, oh, all right, she actually did it.
I think that the chances of you getting a cash tip are probably greater if they already tipped to begin with. I just don't see cash tips. I remember back in the Uber days, right? Like Uber and Postmates. So Postmates never showed the upfront tip information before Uber absolved them. But so let's talk about Uber, right? You would accept an order, on hopes and dreams, right? You had your base pay and you had your mileage, and you had to make a decision based on the restaurant and, the little bit of information, and just hope for the best. And I cannot remember a single time that I got a cash tip when they didn't tip in the app. But on the flip side, there were countless times where they had already tipped in the app and then gave me even more cash. So, but Kim, can we pop that slide back up for a second?
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about the actual instructions. Ring doorbell will tip cash. So, are you two going to actually ring the doorbell and be like,
no. Oh, no.
Never.
I never ask for a tip. I mean, right. I just flat out, I agree with you. A lot of these delivery instructions are old. A cash tip actually is a bonus that is quite rare. It's just a nice bonus when it happens.
For sure. So let us know in the chat if you guys are ringing the doorbell or not. So Mike, which city, do you think that location makes a difference for cash tips at all? Like, did you see more in San Diego or more in Pennsylvania?
For cash tips, I don't think so. I can't remember either location. Again, you're talking like 1%, 0.5% were cash tips, but neither city for cash tips was better off the top of my head.
Okay. And Kim, what you said, you're not ringing the doorbell, right?
If it's in the instructions, I'll ring the doorbell. I'm not going to ask for the cash tip, but if it's in the instructions, my rule of thumb is if it's not in the instructions, I am taking a picture, and I'm hightailing it out of there. The only time I ever ring a doorbell or knock is if it's in the instructions, ring doorbell or knock. But that's just my own, what I do when I deliver. So no.
So talking about the old instructions, I would be a little concerned that they were old instructions, and I'd be like knocking on the door like, hey, cough it up. And they're going to, be confused and, think that I'm just being a jerk.
That's why you not be a jerk.
I agree with Kim. If it does not say knock or ring the doorbell, I take the picture and I am out of there, because I truly believe most everyone that's fluent enough in technology, they got the thing open on desktop or their app, and they're just waiting for that screen to change, or they're watching you from their windows. We know that what happens. I mean, sometimes I'll ring a doorbell or something. I think it's like certain scenarios for whatever reason I do, but I kind of agree with Kim there.
Okay. So Kim, why don't you lead us into our Instacart story? You do more of this than I do.
Yeah. So there was a gentleman who got deactivated from Instacart, and this was a while ago. He was a former Instacart shopper, and he fought the company over a deactivation. And this is the thing. He won $1,000 because he fought against his deactivation. So he fought back by exercising the option that most gig workers might not know, but he went into arbitration and he actually won the payout of Instacart according to the decision by the insider. The arbitration, if you guys don't know what it is a legal process where disputes are resolved in a neutral third party, often outside the court system, based on evidence and arguments, and then they kind of make a decision from there. So yeah, he won his money. So congratulations to the guy who fought Instacart, because the whole entire thing, if I remember correctly about the article, is he went to go scan the items at self-checkout. And I want to say it was back in 2020. That's how long this has been going on. But there was an item he didn't realize that someone before him had scanned on the thing. So he went up to the thing and he just started scanning his items, checked out, and I guess it got flagged as fraudulent activity on the card because he had an item that wasn't on, the list that he was shopping for, and he got deactivated. So he won. Yay, go for him.
So at the time of the arbitration hearing, representatives from Instacart argued that the company could essentially terminate the independent contractor agreement for any reason or no reason at all. And I think that that's one of the biggest problems within the gig economy, right? Mike, you were deactivated from Doordash for a silly reason that was not your fault. So realistically, this could happen to any of us on any app at any time.
Yeah. What you kind of referenced there, Zach, folks, is what's called just at-will employment, or in this case, an at-will contract as an independent contractor. You can, go through these terms of service if you'd like, folks. And if you see those words at will, then yes. And again, this is not business or legal advice. I can't give that to you. But that could mean they could let you go as a contractor for basically any reason. And I'll say this as well. Talking about this arbitration that Kim introed here is, I haven't mentioned this before. There is another gig company that I am, in essence, going back and forth with, that I think they're not giving it to me straight, and they deactivated my account. Another company I haven't mentioned before that I have not driven for yet. So I'm questioning, how can you even do this? If I have even done one run for you, it's got to come back down to content creation, which falls under the fair use. I've already had a couple companies already approve the content for fair use. So, I don't think I want to escalate that to arbitration, but I told them, like, guys, there's no real valid reason. Can you give me a reason? And I mentioned, because they keep ignoring me basically, that I'll get a business attorney or whoever I need to involve just to try to put some pressure on them, which I think is kind of ridiculous, because, everything I do is vehemently trying to stay, above grade terms of service and stuff. And I talk a little bit about what happened on the Dasher front, but I'm like, guys, what are we doing here? But that's good that the shopper won. So Kim, is that for lost wages, I assume? Like, that's a lot of money. Is that just lost pay?
I think it was kind of a little bit of everything. I think it was lost pay, but also kind
legal
of, I don't want to say pain and
something.
legal fees, kind of pain and suffering type of thing, just because he went how many years without being an Instacart. And if I remember correctly, I think he was a full-time Instacart person too, which probably added to the total.
Definitely.
Mike, do you do Instacart?
I'm activated, folks. I'm activated on shift, but I don't listen. One tip, high level, if you're a shopper for any grocery, is dollars per item instead of dollars per mile, because it's every item you have on there is more and more time, and the possibility of it not being in stock, and then you have to communicate substitutions. Now these apps have what do they do? Preloaded customer substitutions, but what if they're not preloaded substitutions? Then you got to go through that process. I don't really love it though, but no.
That poses an interesting question. Kim and I had this debate a couple of weeks ago. What is the dollar amount per item that you like to see?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't even think I've really thought of that. So my backup answer would still be dollars to time ratio, which is the second part of what we teach our team members, dollars to mile and dollars to time. How much am I going to make and how much time is it really going to take? So it's kind of one and the same. If it's 5 items, I know it shouldn't take too long, but if it's 35 or 45, which are real item counts, by the way, folks, it's going to take you some time. So you need to understand, like, have I even been in that grocery store before? I did a run in San Diego. Oh, what was the place called? It was a primarily Hispanic grocery market, and I can't remember the name of it, but I'd never been in there before. So not only did I not know the layout, but I didn't even know some of the products. So that's going to take more time.
Yeah, for sure. So Kim, what is your dollar per item again? Because I told you before and you laughed at me.
No, I don't go by dollar per item. I go by time. So and it's by my own time and what I know I can do in each one of my markets, because I do have Instacart ship, Walmart, Spark. I think, well, Doordash does it now too, but I go by time. So I know my supermarkets by now, and I know just by looking at an item count, okay, it's 25 items. It's going to take me 20 minutes to shop. Now Doordash and Uber Eats make it easy because they have the aisle numbers. So I can be in, out. If I can get it done in an hour, and if it's like $26, heck yeah, I'm doing it. The one I did the other day was a half hour. Sorry.
Kim, how often do you get snags with item substitutions, or is it usually pretty seamless, either reaching the customer or preloaded substitutions?
It depends. I had one the other day that there were no substitutions on 25 items, and I zipped in and zipped out. There was one a couple of days ago where I felt like it was never ending because every single item was a substitution. Gotcha. So, it kind of depends on the shop. I find more substitutions on Shipped and also on Instacart than I kind of do on DoorDash and Uber Eats, but just kind of my own experience. But
okay.
So I want to shift directions here a little bit while sticking with the subject of shopping, partially. So there is talk that Spark is going to be moving in the direction of using W-2 employees instead of gig workers to do the deliveries. Now, this, for me, is a pretty scary scenario. I mean, that's a big chunk of my income is Spark. So, So the CEO said that we'll have associates doing more deliveries. He said this at I believe it was a Goldman Sachs business luncheon. So they've been talking about doing this for a while now. I started hearing whispers about a year ago, roughly.
Okay. Well, let me comment on that if I can.
Please.
So this immediately made me think of Bird scooters and, to a degree, Lime scooters, because when Bird was in San Diego, it was all independent contractors. And then they switched to something like this. I'm pretty sure they're classifying workers, at least in part now, W-2. So you'd be a fleet manager, but under Bird, and it's a little bit different. Now, focusing on Spark. So Zach, you said it's a decent bit of your portfolio. I don't love Spark. It's in the bottom third of my side hustle list for our team members. I don't like the centrally based warehouses. So how do you combat that? Because if you get, let's say, $2 a mile, but then you have to come back to the same Walmart, or maybe there's another one that's like hopefully close by to your drop-off zone. How do you combat that? That's always been my biggest problem.
Yeah, so we only have one Walmart in my market. They recently added a couple more pickup locations. So they're doing like Sherwin-Williams at the paint store. I don't know exactly what it's called. And they've got something else I saw on there. I can't remember what it was. But the way that I approach Spark changes depending on a couple of factors. So in the morning, I'll try to do those .com runs where you get the 5, 10, in my market, they're up to 19 stops.
Sure.
And when I get those, frequently they will leave me way out in the county, which is obviously not optimum for positioning. However, with those, because the deliver by time isn't very strict, I will multi-app in there too. So I'll turn on DoorDash and Uber Eats, and I'll take food orders in between stops. And if I do it successfully, typically I will have, gotten close to, if not more than doubled my money. And so it makes being out in the county a little bit more palatable. So I hope that answered your question.
That's a good way to do it. No, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
So are you usually, well, to answer the overall question, if they move more towards W-2, it's going to be more expensive for Walmart because they're going to have to source vehicles for these drivers. They can't make them use their personal vehicle. That's obviously what 1099 does. So do you usually do just one .com run? So 16, 19 stops. You just think, boom, I'm going to do this big run. I multi-app and then I'm done with Spark for the day?
No. So they typically tend to put the .com orders out in the morning. So I'll do one of those and then I'll, focus specifically on like Uber Eats for lunch. And then I'll come back a little later after the lunch rush dies down and I'll do the grocery delivery for Spark.
That's expert multi-apping. If you can multi-app while on a spark.com run. So yeah, you are doubling your pay per mile or whatever it equates to be. And then still, I think you mentioned usually hit that delivery window. That's excellent.
In my market, you have to be very careful with Spark because we only do have that one Walmart. The closest one without going into Canada is like 30 miles south. So
gotcha.
You really could be sent just about anywhere within the county. And you got to be really careful with where that last stop is going. Yeah, so I mean, if it's doing like
well, no, go ahead.
If it's doing like a loop and coming back, perfect. It's not as big of a deal, but that frequently isn't the case.
And that actually might be a good point for anyone in a more rural market, folks, because if you're more rural, you're going to be more spread out on these .com runs. Boom. If you can just add, routes here and there to fill it in, that's excellent.
So
great.
I know we're kind of running a little short on time here, but I wanted to talk about why Spark is wanting to move in the direction of W-2 as opposed to 1099. So they are saying that they're having a hard time verifying the identities of their drivers, basically. So they're having issues with bots and fake accounts. But to me, that seems like a bit of a cop-out. Feel free to disagree with me, but they've been talking about doing this for at least a year, moving, in the direction of W-2. So I think that they're just using this as a convenient excuse. That's just my synopsis.
Yeah, well, this is my take on it. I think Bud Soda said it in the comments. I think Spark is spending on your Walmart is way too busy just to get employees to do just the deliveries with Spark. Like now they have Uber Eats as a subsidized for the stuff that Spark can't do. They have Spark drivers, and in my Walmart they actually do have employees doing deliveries. So I think their demand is too great to get rid of Spark drivers altogether. I think they can move in the direction of getting more employees. I don't think Spark drivers are going to go away completely. And yes, I think they do need to do something about the bots. And they just started the facial and recognition, like the ID scan. So, hopefully that'll help. I just think that they need better technology in order to combat whatever the issues they have going on.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, DoorDash started doing the facial recognition. I mean, that's the easy answer that everyone's doing to verify you are who you say you are. And then to Kim's other point, I just don't see them offloading a huge number to W-2, maybe a little bit. But again, every W-2 person, if they have to even hire a new person, because obviously Walmart, I used to work for Walmart in between semesters at college. They're a traditionally very lean company. But they're not going to want to hire a bunch of new associates and have to pay them benefits as a W-2. So that's something to consider as well.
Well, not to mention the fleet of new vehicles. So for me, it seems like it would be cheaper for them and smarter to maybe, unpopular opinion amongst drivers coming, but to cut back on some of the bonuses that the drivers get currently. So, I mean, when you're buying an entire fleet of vehicles and having to hire a bunch of new employees and pay benefits, it's not logical.
I just think of last Christmas where they had the deal days in like all of November. I think it was like every Wednesday in November, I think it was, and part of December. And like it was literally, .com order after .com. Like that's the only thing they were pushing out because they needed to get out Christmas, all their packages out to everybody. So I don't think there's any way that they can meet that demand.
Yeah, I don't. So that's a valid point. I don't think we're going to see this happen during the fourth quarter. I don't think that they could afford to do that right now. So we've got some funnies, right, Kim?
We have some funnies.
You found a lot again. I was like, ugh.
I found a lot this week. And the first one is actually totally me. So don't judge. I'm just saying.
Call me childish, but beating the GPS time is an extreme sport for me.
I just beat the DoorDash's quoted time on a delivery a couple of days ago, and I was happy about that.
Nice. I think that we all kind of have our own. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Kim.
No, I was going to say, I'm always trying to find new ways of maneuvering around in my area because I pick up in a downtown area. It's not like city area, but it's a downtown area. So I'm like, okay, well, if I make a left here and I make a right here, then I'll cut out like a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and then I'll totally beat GPS. Like this is totally me.
Yeah. We all kind of have the market knowledge built up after a while where we're like, yeah, GPS is telling us to do this, but I know that this time of day, this is going to be quicker. So yeah, I can resonate with this too.
Okay, moving on.
What else we got? So this is a doormat outside of somebody's front door that says, hold on, we're probably naked. I like that. That's funny. No, I think it's funny. I remember getting a order once that had delivery instructions that said, please just leave it at the door. I'm not sick or anything. I just don't want to put pants on. So it reminded me of that.
I'm sure I've had some funny instructions. I can't remember any as of late. I've had a few. Nothing recently though. They're definitely out there.
So yeah, I'm going to ask you this, Mike. You're going to be our tiebreaker of last week. You've watched Friends, right?
Oh,
the show Friends.
I can't remember the last time though, but yeah.
So there was a doormat that says, was Ross and Rachel on a break? Yes or no? And you had to put the package on the yes or no. Zach didn't know what Friends was.
I know what Friends was. I just didn't know what the freaking reference was.
I don't get the reference either. I have not watched it that deeply. I just kind of heard of it and saw little splices over the years. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Just saying.
What's the next one? Because there's one in here you're going to have to explain to me, Kim. So this is a tweet from somebody. I'm sorry, but you can't always be experiencing a higher volume of calls than average. That's not how averages work. That is not how averages work. I liked that one. That was funny.
I actually thought this was hilarious because how many times I feel like every time you call DoorDash support or even Uber Eats support, like you get that message, we're experiencing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Every single time?
In actuality, the wait times, I feel like I never waited super, super long though. But I mean, they say it as a default. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I think it's the next one you're going to have to... No, it's not this one. All right. So William Dafoe, first week of door dashing. He's dressed all nice in a suit, looking suave. After 3 months of door dashing, he looks like a mechanic. He's sitting there smoking a cigarette like he's ready to punch someone. So that one resonated with me too.
RideShare 2015 to 20, like whatever, 19, when you've done it for a while. I would detail my car, super, super detailed when I first started. And then you realize that you don't got to do that. Just keep it clean.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Last one.
Go ahead, Kim.
The restroom is for eating customers only. And then it has
who's the dude down there in the corner?
What?
Hannibal Lecter? Are
That's
you kidding me?
Come on. You know that.
No,
come on. You don't know that?
I don't watch much TV or movies.
Movie, yeah.
Like Silence of the Lambs?
Never seen it. Heard of it. Never seen it. My email is going to blow up after this. How do you not know what that is?
Okay, so
Do
I'm
we have
gonna
one more?
give you homework. So by next week, you need to watch Silence of the Lambs.
That and Friends, apparently.
Then
I'm
the
not gonna watch Friends.
Seriously?
I'm not going to watch Friends either.
I'm not going to watch Friends. Kid, do we have one more or is that it?
I think that's it. Oh no,
Oh.
there was one more.
All right. Oh, well, speaking of that, go ahead, Kim.
Yeah.
Please leave a door. Please just leave it at the door. Walk away. We aren't great with people, and we don't like wearing pants. Thank you. Said at least they were honest.
Yeah. All right. And that was the last one we had, right?
That was it.
Okay. Sorry, we kind of went a little over tonight. So I always feel weird asking people with channels much bigger than ours, but we do it every time we have a content creator on. Mike, where can people find you?
Well, find me at Your Driver Mike on YouTube, yourdrivermike.com for courses and resources to help you in most every side hustle, and trying to grow on TikTok as well. But definitely check out the website. Just launched a new starter guide, folks. If you are looking to start or get another option for a side hustle, there's 50 plus verified side hustles, but also with actual relevant info in one place. So you can see qualifications, you can click for support articles. It's going to save you hours of time and research. That's at yourdrivermike.com. But it's been great, guys. This is fantastic. Had a lot of fun today.
Thank you so much for being here.
For, joining us. We had such an amazing time and such a wealth of knowledge. So thank you for letting us pick your brain for an hour.
And I just want to throw this out there. It's kind of surreal to be talking to you. I've only been in the gig tube space for about a year and a half now. And so to go from watching your videos to actually be here talking to you is pretty mind-boggling to me. So
in the digital space, just brace yourself. If we ever meet in person, that'll even be another level,
Right, for sure. So Mike, thank you again so much for joining us, and everybody, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We'll be here same time, same place next week.
Bye, everyone.